Welcome to the Everything Coworking podcast. This is your host, Jamie Russo. Thank you for joining me. Okay, so I'm going to call this episode the modifier to last week's episode. And I must be honest, I wanted to delete last week's episode because I was so fired up. I feel like recording that was like when you write an email when you're mad about something and you send it instead of saving it to drafts. I was like, I'm posting this thing. And I'm not sure I should have, but on the other hand, I was very passionate about the topic. But I was reflecting on it. And if you're on my newsletter, then I think I added a little more sort of clarity to my thinking in the newsletter on Wednesday. So after I'd, slept on my frustration a little bit, but I wanted to talk even more because as I was writing the newsletter, I thought I said something in my newsletter that is actually true, which is that most of the people that go through my co-working startup school, which is our program that we have to help folks launch co-working spaces, most of them do not pursue a very traditional model. And that's either because there are a lot of people interested in pursuing non-traditional models, or those that want to pursue something sort of unique and not exactly a straightforward co-working model recognize that they should get some professional guidance. And so they're more likely to sign up for something like the co-working startup school. So I'm not sure which it is. I see, lots of unique spaces. We run a community manager program. So I talk to a lot of operators and a lot of community managers every month, and we see all sorts of different models. And so I am afraid that I was a little too down the middle, sounding like I think you should, there's only one type of model to create that is successful in co-working. That is not the case. What is the case? And this is what I see from my students, is that they are laser focused on finding a product market fit. And so they come to our startup school because they have an idea of an audience they want to serve. And it might be an audience that isn't typically served by like a traditional co-working workspace, or they've been inspired by a workspace and they want to do something slightly different for a very specific audience, usually. And so to me, that is the right way to be thinking about this business model. The sort of frustration I was feeling about this blog post that I referenced was that you need to be different just to be different. And that is a recipe for disaster, because to me, that is focusing on some sort of random differentiation that is not focused on getting the business model right. But if your business model is focused on serving a specific ideal member, we call that your ideal co-working avatar or ideal customer avatar in our course, then you are defining who you want to serve and then building your business around that. And what we do in the course is try to make sure we think the model will still work. And in the email version of my, sort of rant from last week was basically that, look, there is a very specific model that tends to work really well if you are optimizing for profit, which some people are doing. And so we know what that looks like, and we can help you pursue that in our startup school. And we certainly see that. And that's sort of easy for me, right? Because then I just have to help you make sure you find the right location. And then we help you figure out what is it that optimizes that model. But we get lots of folks who are not interested in following sort of that traditional model that we know tends to work really well in terms of, making sure there's profit every month. And so there's just more risk in that approach. But I will tell you that what I see, and what is so, I think, much fun for me and inspiring about this industry, is that there are a lot of different ways to approach it. There are a lot of different end users to serve. And that's what I think is also exciting about our industry, is that most markets, and that's, part of what I was trying to get across on my last episode, is most markets are still wildly underserved by great third workspaces, that you just need to figure out what that market needs And you can still do a pretty simple, like 10,000 square feet, 15,000 square feet, 60% offices, 40% open space or offices and meeting rooms and sort of closed space, 40%, flex space, cafe space, that kind of thing. Get a really great location, get a really great lease, and do really well. Again, lots of folks are interested in something more unique. So I talked about this a little bit with Alex from Proximity on up the podcast a few episodes ago. We just kind of spitballed a little bit about like, what does he see people doing in the marketplace? And, I wanted to reinforce that if you're working on something that doesn't sort of line up with the like really traditional model, I am definitely not saying that that is wrong. But make sure you do all the due diligence, make sure you really understand what makes the model work. This is what I kind of tell my students, like, look, here's what works really well, and here's what we know is really profitable. So if you're going to deviate from that, let's figure out how you're going to sort of make up for that. What is it that you're doing in your model that will help you to be financially sustainable? Because while profit may not be everyone's motive, almost everybody needs the model to not lose money. So we don't want that. And that's, what I really care about. That's, why I get into this is because a lot of you are, raising money, using your personal savings. This is a business that often comes from personal bank accounts. And so we need to get that right. So I have folks I was just thinking like, what, I'm going to scan through my startup school list. We see a lot of, and Alex and I talked about this, a lot of like medical therapy concepts. We're seeing a lot more of that come through. We have folks that are interested in serving very specific populations. I've mentioned this a couple times. We have a group doing attorneys. I have a woman who's interested in helping people be closer to their faith at work. We have co-warehousing. We have I won't like get into everybody's personal business, but I have someone who's on an island who's building this beautiful ecosystem that will kind of support the locals on an island where there's a lot of like remote work and tourism. So she's creating a workplace, a place for retreats. It's on a farm. It's amazing. She's amazing. That's really fun and a big challenge for me to kind of help her kind of tackle this from scratch because it is so unique. Just looking at, there's somebody else who's from another country. We have a team of women who are serving artists in their area and focusing on events. So, some of these folks I work with one-on-one. So we have an Accelerator program that goes with the startup school. And that's usually when I can really dig into people's pro formas. We don't usually do a lot of pro forma work in our group calls, but when I can get in deep and work with folks, they add on, this Accelerator aspect, then we dive into their pro formas. And they just are super confident about their product market fit. And they're, being really thoughtful about who they're serving and exactly what these folks need. And actually, the woman I mentioned who lives on an island, she just did a survey. I always tell my students to, sort of validate, understand what people are looking for. She got 100 responses in like a day. I was like, oh my God, record setting. It was amazing. I'm just looking for, I see folks here and there doing spaces that are also serving, again, the religious theme, like, okay, churches only get used, sort of on the weekends, really underused, and people want to bring, that community and that faith aspect more directly into the community. So I have somebody who just launched, I think he's in Ohio, and it is sort of part place where he can host it. He's a pastor. He can host his services on the weekends and do evening groups, and then also have a workspace in a place for community events. So he probably is also not 100% focused on generating profit. He wants a place that makes a really big impact for the community, but he also doesn't want to lose money, right? We have a woman in another small market. She's awesome. I'm going to get her on the podcast. She is working with entrepreneurs in a smaller market, and she does coaching and really kind of like, I would say, economic development focused. And so her space is really for the people that she works with and the broader community. And like I said, I'm hoping, if you know who you are, I'm going to talk you into being on the podcast. And yeah, a couple more medical folks. I mean, we just like super interesting across the board. two female focused spaces, two quite different, one smaller, one very large, one that has a great niche. I'm not going to give away their niche. It is sort of government based. I work with them one-on-one also. So just really across the board, folks applying the shared space community workspace model to niches, or serving folks that they already serve and they need space for that. We just had someone finally open. She's been working, Dina Saunders, and I think she's Green Pines Media. I also want to have Dina, if you're listening, please come on the podcast. She has such a unique end user. She's doing workspace, but also gallery space for youth who have been in the foster system and are into music and arts and need that ecosystem to help them learn how to, build an income, do their work and have a place where they can put their work up, they can perform, and that supports them and helps them learn how to monetize their work. So amazing, right? So again, I love working with these folks, and I also want them to create a model that is sustainable and profitable, as much as that is a focus for their business. So again, a big modifier to kind of my antsy, but the childcare thing is a really thing that sets me off, because it is a very hard model. And I know so many people want to do this. And that was one of the differentiating items. And I think the writer took it off. So I talked to someone else again today, and she's a new podcast listener. So hello, if you're listening to this one. And I feel like I'm like the bubble burster when people bring up this topic, but it is hard. And I have done due diligence on this. I have spoken with people who help people launch daycares, and they walk me through why it is so hard. It's a very, very hard model. And every time I bring this up, somebody, really wants to do it, but there's a lot of evidence that it's just very hard to do for co-working spaces. So I'm not saying, and you know what, if you're listening and you have a profitable arm of your shared workspace that is, and I know some folks do. So Pillar Co-working was on the podcast. They offer full-time daycare. So lots of challenges to that. They've been on the podcast, so you can go back and listen to that one. If anyone else is listening, doing well with the model, please reach out. But you have to tread really carefully. And it's not my job to coach people out of ideas, but it is my job to help people understand the risk that they're taking. I can't make decisions for folks. The decisions are ultimately yours to make, but I want you to do your due diligence and understand exactly, sort of the risk you're taking in terms of deviating from what we know is, a profitable model, and easy to recruit for, and easy for the end consumer to understand. I talked to somebody else today in a smaller market, and I walked him through, like, you know what, you might have some educating to do, because you are in a market that probably doesn't know much about co-working. So know that you're going to have a little bit of a heavier marketing lift. So I just always want people to kind of go into the risk that they're taking eyes wide open. So, and it's hard to talk entrepreneurs out of things that they're passionate about. I also, would make sure to be clear that I think the exciting thing about this model is that you could have two spaces that are 10 to 15,000 square feet with 60 to 70% enclosed office space and some flex space that are entirely different, right? One could be more formal, more conservative. One could be like industrial chic. One could be for women. Okay, I had a woman, and I have not met her yet. So hello, if you're listening. She joined our academy, and her space has like a Cinderella coach in it. It is fabulous. That's the only word to use. It's whimsical, fabulous. I don't know. I cannot wait to meet her, because I can only imagine how exciting she is as a human. So no two spaces are alike, right? And so I think there's so much room for being different, but making sure that we're not being different for the sake of being different. We're being different for the sake of attracting our ideal customers and making our business model work. And when I say business model work, again, what your profit goals are, and you hit those. Maybe not in the first year, but once you get kind of stabilized is the word I'm looking for, then we want the model to look like you expected it to. And if you are doing crazy things just to be different, but you can't monetize the value of that difference, that's where I get concerned. But we are still in a space where, folks, I mean, I don't even have a co-working space in my town. I was walking with my family yesterday. It was a national holiday for in the US for those who President's Day. And so we went out to lunch. I did a call with Bulgaria in the morning, and then I did a call with the community manager group for the Flexible Workspace Association in Australia in the afternoon. So I did some work with folks who don't celebrate President's Day, which is kind of fun. But anyway, we were walking, and there's a brand new, beautiful commercial building. And actually, I need to send it to Mara Hauser. Mara Hauser, if you're listening, I need a co-working space. I need a 25 North in that building. If anybody else is listening who would like to go in there, I'm hoping there needs to be a co-working space on the third floor. It's beautiful. Brand new building, nice and modern, and like really tall ceilings. I can tell on the third floor with tons of windows. So we don't even, in my immediate town, don't even have a co-working space. And we could probably use 3 of them for different focuses, maybe more. And so there are lots of places that are still open to fresh ideas that are slightly different and attract people who want something slightly different out of their workspace. And there's just unending opportunity for that still. So what I want to say is that what I want for you, if you're working on a space or expanding your space, is I want you to get the model right. Lots of people do not. So you want to understand what makes the model work, and you want to understand where you're going to deviate from that and what that means and how you want to compensate for that to make sure that you can still meet the goals that you have for the business. And if you're going to do a traditional space, then you want to make sure you know kind of what makes the model work and that you do those things. And it's different for every marketplace. And so you have to, again, really understand your market and who you're serving, and then build to serve them and build for the model. So that's all. I'm much calmer than last week. That's my usual self, but sometimes I get a little fired up because I care and I want you guys to be successful. So we are here anytime to help you in the co-working startup school or our accelerator program. And we have kind of different versions of our accelerator program, depending on how much support you need. We have been getting some calls from landlords that need kind of the full suite of help to get up and running or to help evaluate their model. If you're, curious about the model and have some questions, we do advisory calls. We've been getting a lot of folks actually from our YouTube channel, which is really fun. So you can find all the ways that you can work with us on the website under Work With Us. And the website is, still working on getting kind of an update going on there, but we've been trying to make it easier to find what you're looking for. So anyway, different is not necessarily bad, but we want different to be intentional, and we want it to align with your ideal member and be monetizable. And get some help. Get some help if you're working on opening a space or optimizing your model and looking towards a second location. And that is it for this week. I hope you guys are having a great week. For those of you that had a long weekend, I hope you went somewhere warm and fabulous or somewhere interesting and got a little break. We did not get a break. We did have a beach day on Sunday. It was gorgeous, 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 like 60 and sunny. Wonderful. So that was really nice. So I hope you're having a great week, and we will see you next week.